All right. So good evening to everybody. This is the June 18th meeting of the Francis Howell School Board. We are experiencing some technical difficulties. So while the live streaming is not working right now at 6:34, what is happening is the entire meeting is going to be recorded so that every single thing that happens here will be available and visible to you, the community. So we do everything as transparent as possible. So thank you for watching, whether live, if it gets fixed, or watching it afterwards. So I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody else. Make sure we communicate what's going on. I appreciate all the hard work happening to make sure our technology works well tonight. So thank you all very much. To those of you who are here in the room with us, welcome. We're glad to have you present on this Thursday. Let us proceed and begin this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. You all please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And board, before we approve the agenda, let us remind everybody about our strategic plan for the year 2030. And so that by year 2030, the Francis Howell School District will be
recognized as one of the top 5% high-performing districts in the state.
The employer of choice for talented educators, leaders, and staff.
Fiscally sound with a track record of smart, long-term planning.
Known for graduating well-rounded students who are equipped with the skills and experiences they need to be successful in the world.
Celebrated for the work we've done on culture, morale, and ensuring all members of our community feel safe and welcome.
And trusted by families and the community to make good decisions and do what's best for the students.
every board meeting has an agenda that's been created to help us achieve these goals. So board, I have a motion to approve the agenda for the June 18th, 2026 meeting as presented.
So moved.
Bernacki, Treasurer McGuire. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. The motion passes. We will move towards patron comments. During patron comments, residents of the district and staff members are invited to address the Board of Education on issues related to the school district. Speakers are called forward in the order of sign up, and each speaker has 3 minutes to make their remarks. Please remember that only one speaker is allowed at the podium at a time, and combining time or giving your time to someone else is not permitted. The board appreciates that you have taken the time to come this evening, and we value both your input and perspective. I'd like to remind everyone that we expect that speakers will remain civil and respectful when giving remarks. We also ask that patrons in the audience remain quiet in order to be respectful of the speaker's allotted time. And tonight we have one patron comment from Kara Human. Could you please come forward?
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Kara Human, and I am a parent and taxpayer in the Francis Howell School District. I'm here tonight because I believe our community deserves clear and factual information about Amendment 5, which will appear on the August 4th ballot. While I understand school districts cannot advocate for or against ballot measures, they can educate the public about how proposed policies may affect local schools. According to estimates from the Missouri Budget Project, if Amendment 5 passes, FHSD could lose approximately $17.8 million annually, or 5.2% of the district's budget. That is a substantial amount of funding that supports the programs, services, staff, and opportunities our students rely on every day. Many voters are still unaware of how the potential impacts this amendment could have on public education. With the election taking place during the summer months, there are fewer opportunities for families to receive information through their schools, making communication from trusted local leaders especially important. I respectfully ask the board to sign a resolution against Amendment 5, an example of which was sent to the board via email on June 11th. The resolution would be for the board to take steps to educate the community about the potential negative fiscal impact of Amendment 5 on our district. It would also direct staff to ensure parents and other FHSD stakeholders are made aware of these impacts via informational materials and communications. St. Charles County defeated Prop RT in April, and no small part because of the informational fact sheets the district provided to the community and because numerous board members spoke out against the negative impacts, or shared the negative impacts of Prop RT. I also encourage the board to collaborate with other St. Charles County districts who are facing the same challenge. There is power and strength in numbers. I believe voters deserve to understand what is at stake before they cast their ballots in August. Our schools are one of the community's greatest assets. Regardless of political affiliation, we should all want voters to have accurate information about decisions that could significantly affect the future of our public education in Francis Howell. Thank you for your time, your service, and your commitment to our students.
Thank you. Up next, we have comments from FHEA. I invite the president to come forward.
Good evening. My name is Francine Hill, and I am the FHEA president. Part of the FHEA leadership team had the opportunity to attend a leadership training from M&EA this weekend. It was a great experience learning from the M&EA team and working with leaders from across the state. We heard about struggles some locals were having with district leadership and boards trying to undermine collective bargaining agreements with disregard to working relationships with their employees. It was great to see the benefits of belonging to a multi-tiered union. The state stepped up to back unions that were dealing with districts breaking their collective bargaining agreement, even if it required legal action. That is only one benefit of belonging to FHEA, M&EA, and NEA. When administrators are allowed to disregard policies and collective bargaining agreements, it creates a lack of trust between the staff and the district leadership. I do appreciate Dr. St. John and Glenn Hancock for helping me solve some situations that arose this month. It was a pleasant experience working together with some of our chiefs to make things happen like a collaborative team. I look forward to continuing that type of work with Glenn, and I hope to build that kind of relationship with our new CFOO, Pam Irwin. Unfortunately, we are still battling legislation that will endanger the needed funding for our school district and others in our state. Please be sure to learn everything you can about Amendment 5. It can end up costing many working class citizens more taxes and limit voter input. While taxes probably aren't anyone's favorite thing, we all enjoy the things they provide for us. FHEA wishes everyone a relaxing, fun, and healthy summer break. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We do not have a comment tonight from our FISPA union, and so with that, we will move towards the consent agenda. There are two items pulled from the consent agenda that we will reference afterwards, but for the consent agenda that's facing the board on item 5, I have a motion to approve the consent agenda for June 18th, 2026 as presented.
Okay.
Vice President Ryder,
Second.
Director Olken. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. And I had two pieces of paper kind of stick together. So, board, we have a agreement, a City of O'Fallon SRO agreement in front of us right now. Director Adams requested that this be an agenda item that is pulled from consent for a separate vote. Director Adams, would you like to say some additional information before I read the motion?
Yes, thank you, President Blair. The reason I pulled it is that the City of O'Fallon is my employer, and it would be a conflict of interest for me to vote on this particular item.
Thank you. Board, I have a motion to approve the agreement with the City of O'Fallon for SRO service from the date in the contract as presented.
So moved.
Vice President Greider,
Second.
Director Olken. Are there any questions? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. Next, we have an additional personnel report. Director Adams requested that this agenda item also be pulled from consent for a separate vote. Director Adams, would you like to share any additional information before I read the motion?
Thank you again. I should have mentioned on the previous one I was abstaining because of that. And I'll be doing the same thing for this particular item because my wife, who is a teacher at Francis Howell Middle School, is listed for extra duty, which would provide a financial benefit to me. So therefore, it would again be a conflict of interest for me to vote on this.
Thank you. And for the board secretary to make sure that we have the previous vote where Jason is abstained from that vote under the record. Thank you. I want to say thank you to Director Adams for paying close attention to the agenda and different items to make sure that anything that relates closely to you, that you're able to identify and pull from consent. So I appreciate your thoroughness and attention. Thank you. Board, I have a motion to approve the additional personnel report as presented. Greider,
Second?
Bulky. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. The motion passes. And so,
I have an update
yeah, give an update.
to your email to hers, and so I don't know how you want to.
Well, she's got board docs, that's visible
Okay.
to the public. Are we going to amend the motion or just?
No motion has been made.
Right, you can
So-
just read the new one.
And then we can get it up.
We'll upload it that way.
So for those of you at home, the
It's
motion that you see here in board docs needs to be altered, and so we're having a motion that's different.
Updated, yes.
An updated primary motion. So, checking my email. Is it the whole section that's bold
You
at the
just
very
have to
top?
read the bold section, and then we'll
All right.
just place that in the motion section.
So board, I have a motion, so I'm just gonna, that's the updated version. Board, I have a motion calling for an election in the Francis Howell School District, St. Charles County, Missouri, the district on the question of whether to increase the district's operating tax levy ceiling for operating costs, including increasing employee compensation, resulting in an expected decrease to the district's debt service levy, the district's debt service tax levy, designating the time of holding said election, and authorizing and directing the Secretary of the Board of Education of the district to give notice of said election. So board, I want to make sure you heard the difference. What was originally shared as language for our motion was only half of what would happen. So this more clearly identifies that it is increasing the district's operating tax levy ceiling for operating costs, including employee compensation, and then this is added for accuracy and clarity for the public, resulting in an expected decrease to the district's debt service tax levy. That part has been added for clarity, for transparency of the district. Okay? Do I have a first and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Who's that? Okay, Greider and Owens. Dr. St. John, thank you for your clarity and love to move forward. Thank you.
Great question. So, good evening, President Blair, members of the board, community. Tonight I'm presenting a recommendation from administration for resolution of Proposition O to be approved by the board regarding a transfer of 12.5 cents from the debt service levy to our operating levy. This presentation outlines a strategic financial adjustment designed to safeguard our district's operational health while honoring our commitment to our taxpayers. The presentation will go through historical and comparative data, debt service levy transfer, timeline, ballot language, and recommendation. During our time tonight, we will review this information in detail. We'll start with a few definitions, just so that we are all on the same page with which areas that we're talking about. The operating tax levy is used for salaries, benefits, services, supplies, capital improvements, and lease purchase, whereas the debt service levy is used for long-term debt repayment of principal, interest, and fees. The levy primary factors for the school district include the assessed valuation of residential and personal property. Those are reassessed on odd-numbered years. It depends on the occupancy of those in the county. It is part of new construction, and then it has a board equalization action. It's also affected by the Consumer Price Index, and then it is governed by the Hancock Amendment capping the revenue growth. Different is the debt service levy, which is governed by the amount of debt that a school district has, and then reported how much the interest and principal would be for the upcoming school year. You've seen this chart before, but I wanted to remind you where we've stood historically in the fiscal year 2014 to today. The levy overall has decreased by $1.40 or 26% during that same time frame. As you know, and I just mentioned, the decrease is a function of the Hancock Amendment designed to lower the levy as assessed valuation has increased in odd-numbered years. You will note that our debt service levy has remained flat during this time at $67.13 for that entire period. Our operating levy is vulnerable to external volatility like reassessments, new construction pacing, the consumer price index, or also known as inflation, the Hancock Amendment caps, and most notably this past year legislation. One that's already in effect, which is the Senate Bill 190 for senior citizens. Conversely, the debt service levy is directly an adjustment or is a calculation of the debt that we are paying back. Here's some comparative data for the total levy overall, and you can see the other districts that are in St. Charles County. And as noted, we have the lowest tax levy for the entire county. When we look across the district, our overall is $3.9769, as compared to the highest in our area, which is $4.7454. And we are also facing these unprecedented revenue pressures due to this decrease in our state revenue. A little closer look at the debt service levy in comparison to those same districts. This is not a direct comparison, it's just another data point. The overall assessed valuation of a school district is what determines your bonding capacity. So you might remember the whole amount of assessed valuation times 15% is your bonding capacity. Our school district has the bonding capacity of about $400 million. We are currently at $257 million. That number is not the same for every district. So a smaller district geographically may have a smaller assessed valuation and not have the same bonding capacity. So whereas the numbers are not directly aligned, it's just interesting to see the difference in the debt service as compared to the outstanding debt that that district has. Why now? We have a problem. We have state revenue funding loss. It's also tied to the strategic plan in this role for me to look for additional revenue strategies and present those to the board. This is a revenue strategy that is completely legal and very normal in school districts for us to look at the other parts of our levy and see if it can be adjusted in this request that we have tonight. So as part of that strategic thinking, the strategy is no longer optional, it is necessary. Francis Howell School District is facing a severe state funding loss. Over a 2-year period, we will be decreased by $9.3 million. And at this time, when costs are continuing to rise, including our insurance, fuel costs, and supplies. So with that, we bring you this ballot language this evening. This is what the ballot would look like. It is difficult in a ballot situation because we can't bold or underline or draw people's attention to. So much of our conversation over the next several months will be to draw out that information for us to make sure that people understand. And in the bottom right corner, you can see what that math calculation is doing is just moving the 12.5 cents from the debt service and putting it over into operating, but the net is zero change. Zero change to that levy. This is a visual depiction. This is the first attempt. It will get better over time with the help of Jim Joel's and department. But I wanted to just share with you the current levy before on the left side. In this analogy, we're using buckets instead of pockets. We may get to pockets. But the whole amount in the blue is, or the whole operating part in blue is $3.30 and $3.30.58. The debt service is $67.13. That total levy amount is $397.71. By moving the 12.5 cents into the operating levy, the far right bucket you can see does not change. So this is just a visual representation of what I was describing a moment ago. And by doing so, that puts $5.5 million into the operating budget ongoing. So once you move that portion over into the operating levy each year, we would be able to count on that at least $5.5 million. Which would be really not fully offsetting that loss that we have from the state, but it's definitely moving in the right direction. Another way of thinking about it is for 12.5 cents, that's $5.5 million, or if you look at it, 1% of our fund balance is about $2.5 million. So that's about 2% on the fund balance that it would be assisting with. This is just an overview summary of the things that we just shared tonight, addressing the strategic revenue shortfall of that $9.3 million in state revenue over a 2-year period. This is an opportunity for a no tax rate increase solution for our taxpayers, where we would be moving 12.5 cents from the debt service levy into our operating levy. It's fiscally responsible for us to do this, and we still have the lowest tax levy in the county, even with this transfer. And what it shows is that the board would be investing in staff and students as they would be putting money into kid dollars instead of the money currently in bond or building dollars. And so by putting it into operating levy, you heard me talk about even in this School Finance 101, levies are for learning, kind of an approach thinking the operating side is really for the people. And so these would be kid dollars if we moved them into the operating side. And with that, I'll see if you have any questions.
Board.
Thank you. Would you mind sharing what is significant about choosing 12.5 cents to move?
It's really the calculation that we look at on the amortization schedule of the bond debt that we have. And so by council, we are provided what we can keep our fund balance at and still be able to pay our debt off on the current amortization schedule. Pairing this with an opportunity in the next presentation to look at a no tax bond increase, it still gives us enough bonding capacity to not change that debt service levy and be able to move. So it's kind of the sweet spot for us to be able to move that money over.
Perfect, thank you. And then my other question was, I know that you mentioned that the language that we see can't be changed and we can't hint at anything, but under the law, are we able to create an infographic of some kind that has the ballots language with arrows pointing to specific sections and for it to be explained in plain English? Because we've been learning about this for the last several weeks and months, and I still don't understand what it says by the definition. So is it possible that we can point to various sections and say, this means this and this means that?
The council that Miss Jules and I, were given this week with the attorney's information was that yes, on our website we can have plain language, we can explain further. It's just that the statute limits what we can put on the ballot, and of course the bolding and underlining is not available as well. So yes, on our website we will be able to fully explain it. Any information that we share, of course, just factual, not voting one way or another, but just sharing factual information. Yes.
All right, thank you very much.
Just to confirm, we're saying a no tax levy total change. So every other year, homes are reassessed, values change, and property taxes change. That will occur whether we do this or not and has nothing to do with this.
Correct.
So if people see their property taxes change, whether they vote yes or no, this has nothing to do with that, correct?
Correct.
We have no control over that, correct?
Correct, and we could even go as far as to say the answers would be exactly the same with or without this change, because the total levy isn't changing. So the only factor in that story that's changing is the assessed valuation for that person's tax bill. So that's the amount that is causing the bill to go up. It has nothing to do with the levy because we're keeping it constant.
So a yes vote and a no vote will have zero impact on how much they are supposed to pay.
It would not be, the district levying
The outcome
is not the variable that would change that math, correct?
The outcome 2 years from now is, irregardless of the vote on this,
Correct.
their property tax bill is going to be what it is.
Correct.
I want to bring up, you had mentioned that it's, that Prop O is no longer a luxury. You point out losing $3 million in the previous school year, the 25-26, and losing another $6 million of funding in 26-27. And so you are proposing with Mark Delaney, our superintendent, that we respond to the loss of funding by pushing a button, pulling a lever, doing one of the few things that we can do as a
Correct.
board, which is to do a fund transfer,
Correct.
debt service levy transfer, so it goes from one pocket to the other. but no impact on the voters, no impact on the taxpayers. They don't pay more or less based on this vote. It's just.
You are correct.
And this might be for others too. Anybody else wants to add onto this from admin? Can you share why, again, it's necessity versus luxury? If we didn't do this, or if it fails and we lose the $5 million transfer from debt service levy to operating levy and operating budget, what kind of things would a district experience if they suddenly were underwater that much money because of the loss of funding from the state?
At that point, a district would be forced to, again, look at the top two things, the top two expenditures, and that's salaries and benefits. So you would have to look at ways to mitigate those expenditures, and a much more difficult decision would have to be made. Whereas this, to me, is an option that the board has available to them that is not going to hurt the staff. And then in the other situation, if we did nothing, we would have to start to cut people or benefits. Those are top two expenditures.
I'm pausing, putting Ms. Simpkins, is there anything you would like to add in terms of your role as human resources? What would happen if debt service levy wasn't either approved here or is not voted approvingly at the ballot? What would happen in terms of our ability to address our human resources needs in the district if this were to pass?
We are a people-intense business. So as Dr. St. John has shared before, 80% of our budget is staffing. And so that would be one of the items that I'm sure I would be tasked at looking at when we go through a staffing analysis or a staffing plan into the future. So it would just take a lot of organizational energy to decide what positions we might be able to work without, how that workload would be transferred to other people, how large will class sizes become, what supports might we cut for our students, sports, coaches, things of that nature. It would really just kind of run through all of the levels of the organization to make sure we were meeting the budget requirements.
So if the board did not approve this motion, or if it goes to the ballot and the public does not approve this motion, we're looking at a conversation about layoffs, missed positions being filled, extracurriculars could be impacted, a series and sequence of very unappetizing changes to the district if this was not to be approved by the board or the voters.
I would just share that in my history of being in the district, when we've had to look at budget cuts before, because a large portion of our budget is staff, there's only so many supplies you can cut, there's only so many lights you can or can't turn off. And so it really does come down to the people that do the work, and it is inevitably, a charge that we have, whether that then becomes salary freezes, benefit reductions, or people reductions, because that is really the big bulk of that budget. So anytime there is a budget crisis, that tends to be where we look. And what that would look like, I don't know. That it's unfair of me to say 100% this is what would happen, but historically that's been the charge, and that is what we've had to look at in order to right-size the budget.
Thank you.
And I would just remind you, this is only one step. So $5.5 million is not enough. It's just a step in this direction. So this next year will be all school districts, you're seeing it today in the St. Louis Dispatch, like all of the school districts are having to now relook and rethink all the expenditures they have. So this is a wonderful step in the right direction, but there are multiple solutions that are going to come to this very complex problem that school finance is facing in Missouri.
Board, any more questions about Prop O?
I do have one question as I sat here and thought about it. So they're reworking the state formula, which often takes into account local funding sources and local support. This would this count as increasing our local support? Or is it because it stays level,
that was
we're
set
good?
before in 2005-06, so we're set right now. The formula that we have, it was baked in 2005.
And aren't they redoing the formula?
They are, but it will be a different calculation. They're looking, currently, the model is looking at the median income of anyone that is resident to the school district. So it's different than how the local percentage works today. And it's expected right now, December 1st, 2026 is when we would know that is expected to go to the governor. And then school districts are not expecting it will take effect until the year 2930.
So we shouldn't expect this to hurt us then with state funding in that.
I can't answer that completely, but all I know is this is the best answer I have for here today.
Okay. Other conversations, any questions?
We've moved money like this several times in the past.
Very normal.
A very common situation that we've had to do where we just, it's a lever or a button that we
The lever you have.
have, and we've needed to do that simply because we haven't had a tax levy in nearly 20 years in our district. So, I mean, we can at some point go to our public and say, would you support us with a tax levy? But until our public is ready to do that, this is what we have at our disposal as an option.
Got one more question. So, just to ask it in a different way, because there may be some members of the public that are thinking, everything that was just said makes complete sense. Why are we voting on this? So, in essence, all we're doing is just reallocating our funds, but we need to go out to the voters because it's required under law.
Correct.
And to Director Oki's point, we're just moving the money around to help ourselves, and that's all that it is. It's just us following the law to move money around.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any more comments or questions? I just want to call out one last thing is, while the entire state may have issues regarding funding to deal with, because of the possibility of Senate Bill 1002, St. Charles County school districts only are going to be limited to making bond or levy ballot initiatives in even numbered Novembers.
Correct.
So if we don't do this now, if the governor signs Senate Bill 1002 into law, we would have to wait 2 years to do this again.
Correct.
So this is our window to respond to the need of lost funding, using the abilities that we have at our legal disposal that doesn't impact the tax rate for the taxpayers.
Well said.
Any more conversation, board? Any more questions? No. Okay. Regarding Prop O, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Board, I have a motion to approve the engagement letter for Thompson Coburn as bond counsel. For the purpose of this engagement letter is to set forth certain matters concerning the services performed as bond counsel and disclosure counsel to Francis Howell School District, St. Charles County, Missouri, in connection with the issuance by the district of the $150 million general obligation bonds series of the 26-27 proposed bonds. Board, see the motion in front of you as well in written form. Do I have a first and a second? Vice President Greider?
Second.
Director Owens? Any conversation?
Who are we currently using? Are we changing? Who are we not gonna, is this in addition to?
This is who we've used in the past.
Okay, so this is like renewed?
This is who we've used in the past. It's just an engagement letter that coincides with this opportunity.
Okay, so it's not changing?
Nope, just freshing in it, yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question. All right, board, again, we're referring to the engagement letter for Thompson Coburn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. And I believe this is appropriate
Yes.
language here. So board, I have a motion for a resolution calling an election in the Francis Howell School District, St. Charles County, Missouri, the district, on the question on whether to borrow money in the amount of $150 million for the purpose of constructing, renovating, repairing, expanding, improving furnishes, and equipping district sites, buildings, and facilities, and to issue general obligation bonds for the payment thereof, designating the time of holding said election, and authorizing and directing the Secretary of the Board of Education of the district to give notice of said election. Do I have a first?
So moved.
Director Adams.
Second.
Director Dillard. So we have a presentation, Mr. Sutzer.
Yes, thank you, President Blair. Good evening, Board. Tonight's presentation with my co-presenter, Ms. Megan Barnes with Allison Miller Architects, is about more than projects and timelines. It's about the journey our district has taken and the path that we're building for the future. As we walk the board through this presentation this evening, we'll reflect on the lessons learned from Proposition S and review the processes that led to the development of the facilities master plan approved by the board in January. Proposition S provided valuable learning experiences in planning, prioritization, board and community engagement, financial stewardship, project delivery, and transparency. It reinforced the importance of maintaining clear communication, ensuring meaningful board oversight, prioritizing investments, and aligning decisions with applicable board policies and regulations. The lessons have shaped our approach in completing the remaining Prop S program priorities and continue to shape our work today and into the future. They have informed decision-making, strengthened processes, and helped us identify opportunities to be more strategic, effective, and accountable moving forward. From there, Ms. Barnes will review the roadmap that is paving the way for Proposition H. This roadmap reflects a deliberate and thoughtful process, one that builds upon successes, addresses emerging facility needs, and positions the district to respond to infrastructure challenges in a systematic manner while remaining aligned with our financial resources. Our goal tonight is to provide a clear line of sight between what was learned through Proposition S, the planning efforts reflected in the facilities master plan, and how those experiences have shaped the vision, priorities, and investments the board will consider a resolution for framework for Proposition H. So with that, we'll go ahead and begin, jump into the presentation. So this slide represents our general overview in terms of what we'll cover. Again, as mentioned, we'll go over lessons learned through Prop S. We'll review the facility master plan relative to Prop H, talk about a timeline, and the ballot language itself. Lessons learned. A lot of takeaways from the state audit that was performed. I'll share a little bit about some process improvements relative to the state audit. I'll share policy and regulation revisions that the board recently approved that will be implemented. Process improvements, communication and transparency, and then leadership. Lessons learned through the state audit. Construction costs. Full transparency for the board, monthly and quarterly. That process is already underway, right? I think in my entire time and tenure here, that was one of the processes that I was a part of. We deliver to the board a monthly typed out report that is publicly posted for the community to also review. We received quite a few questions from the board just regarding status updates through that report. And then quarterly, we present a presentation on the status of projects, both bond and capital, along with supporting pictures to show that progress real time. Project manager and architect selection. We fully implemented the design bid, build, and cooperative purchases. We brought a few additional delivery methods to our portfolio relative to design, bid, build, and cooperative purchases. And if you recall, through each way along the process, the board has the opportunity to provide feedback, but ultimately has the final approval. Lessons learned from a policy revision standpoint. As I just shared here recently, the board approved several regulations and policies relative to construction work. I want to highlight those, specifically Regulation 3330 and then Policy 7220. We talked about kind of the processes that have already been implemented, but we wanted to, as part of this process, we wanted to make sure that we codified those in regulations and policies. So the quarterly presentations, monthly progress reports, including financials that the board sees, are now codified through Regulation 3330. and Policy 7210. Additionally, Policy 7132 and Regulation 7132 define a couple of things that I want to make sure that I highlight clearly. So one of the lessons learned through the state audit is relative to Francis Howell North. Construction had already begun with site work and foundational work when the total cost of the project was really unknown. So what we've codified in policy here is when we're utilizing a construction manager at risk delivery method, no construction work can commence or take place until the full known cost of the project is known and also approved by the Board of Education. So that's codified in policy as well as Regulation 7132. There's also a provision that we did add, as some of you are aware, that there's a shared savings clause in the construction manager at risk contract. And what we've done is we've added that, or the board has approved that, I should say, to where it gives, it's not one-sided. The board has the authority to either agree to a shared savings clause or not agree to one, and then in that instance, all of those dollars would come, any savings would come back to the district. So we've codified that in policy and regulation 7132. This slide here just represents again the transparency that we received through the projects. This is a slide that I know Dr. St. John covers on a monthly basis, and Ms. Pam Irwin will continue that cadence based off of the policies that I just referenced. And then this is the communication and transparency slide that has been implemented as part of the lessons learned, but a lot of the work that we've been delivering for the remaining bond projects, we follow this process to a T. Now there are some situations where there isn't significant scope. I'll just use the replacement of mechanical systems where there isn't really design, it's really more engineering, and we've used cooperative purchasing to deliver that. And so, you know, at times there is a little bit of variation, but for the most part, for all of the projects that require significant design, the board is apprised of that each step of the way. You're allowed to provide input and be a partner and a stakeholder in that process, ultimately leading to the board approving to issue bid packages for them to come back and for consideration from a board approval standpoint. So we've been executing this process for the last 2.5 years based off of the lessons learned. And then just from a staffing leadership standpoint, obviously I've already noted I provide the full construction monthly report in terms of status, and then I present to you quarterly relative to the ongoing work supported with pictures. And then the district did add a purchasing manager position that was approved July 1st of 2024, and that position has been instrumental in ensuring that purchasing requirements and with construction related bids and really all other purchasing requirements within district board policy and regulations are followed. This slide here represents all of the good work that's really taken place through Proposition S. I won't cover each and every one of the projects, but again, you know, we start with this building, Francis Howell North, and work through a lot of the other projects that we brought for board approval each step of the way, and that's led to the culmination of really wrapping up the bond projects relative to Prop S with Phase 2 mechanical improvements, which are on schedule, and we anticipate that we'll be able to turn all of those buildings over to the board, to the district and buildings for utilization August 1. And I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Barnes. She's going to cover the facility master planning part, and we'll leave time at the end for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Setzer. Good evening. Building
on the momentum of Prop S and all the good work that's been impactful to learning environments over the last few years, we came in front of you guys in January of this year at the culmination of a year-long facility master plan that took into account facility assessments, surveys, and other data collection, really trying to make sure we have a clear picture and vision for what the district needs and what those priorities are for not only the short term, but also the long term through the next 5 to 10 years. And with that, as you see up here, we shared back with you guys about $248 million in needs based on November 2025 pricing that was presented to you in January. And so what we're sharing tonight, we're not going to go completely backwards in this, but did want to review some of those key highlights to talk about the impact of Senate Bill 1002 and what the new constraints of only being able to pursue bond referendums in even numbered years, so 26, 28, and then on can do to project costs and additional costs over the long term. So as you see up here, previously we were escalating out to 2027 and then 2032 for those first two phases, 5-year durations. We have pulled that back to look at 26. So one good thing is with that new constraint, if you are to go a little bit earlier in 2026, the cost of inflation escalation do come down if they continue to track as is, and you'll see that impact up here. So cost additional $12 million escalated out 1 year, and then another $26 million escalated another 2 years. So you do see up here, if you were to wait until 2028, there would be an additional cost to execute the same amount of projects. Just as a quick summary and overview of what we shared back then, so what is being proposed to you today is that first phase for a 2026 proposition would be $150 million worth of those prioritized projects in those 3 buckets: maintenance projects, safety and security, and then impacting learning environments through additional improvements there. This was the longer, more detailed list of that. One thing important to note here is this did try to make sure that we are touching every building in the district and providing improvements district-wide to bring them up to consistent standards at each learning level. You'll see the long list there that is has additional detail, those deferred maintenance projects, and then as well as the breakdown of learning environment improvements there on the right. This was the timeline of implementation we shared back in January, so we have updated this a little bit to align with that potential for moving that up to 26 from 27 based on the new Senate bill. And that would be then looking out 4 years for a potential phase 2. You'll see here on the further breakdown of that implementation timeline here in a second. And as we mentioned in January, we recommend a yearly, just brief look at your master plan to make sure nothing has changed in terms of priorities, and then really doing a deep dive into an updated master plan every 10 years that you'll see reflected here, projecting out to 2035. So with that $150 million, we start to look at how much can be done in any given time. Obviously, school districts have a unique constraint that kids are in buildings most of the year. So we do have to be very strategic about when we can have impact and not disrupt learning environments and kids. So most of the work does have to happen in the summer months. There are some small things that can be tackled over winter break, spring break, things that you can get creative on, some that have minimal or no impact on learning. But because of that, we also have the unique constraint if we're looking at November of a design and bidding timeline to hit summer schedule. Typically, we want to bid projects, get them out to contractors in the fall for summer work. That makes sure contractors aren't too busy, it doesn't escalate prices. So with the November bond, that does get a little bit tricky for that first summer of 2027. So what you'll see up here is that first summer and that first sequence is a little bit smaller than the next 3 years. And what we do there is be very strategic about things that not only have shorter design durations, so we can get them out to bid quicker, but also that have materials and things that don't have long lead time items. So things that don't have long order durations, things like windows, doors, some of that mechanical units, some of those have a long time. We're hearing 50 weeks to get some mechanical units sometimes. So some of those just won't be viable that first summer, but we've been able to look really strategically at how we can have a big impact early on through some strategic projects and then really hitting those next 2 summers hard. And you'll see that orange bar just says design documents. There's a lot that goes into that, though. As Mr. Sutrick just mentioned, that's where those 5 stop signs come in. Each of those individual projects you'll see on the next slide would come before the board for review and approval and input along the way. So a lot would be packed into there to get those projects moving. So you would see each one multiple times before they go out to bid and would start to be implemented. This next slide breaks that down a little bit further. So each of those basically year phases are broken down, as I mentioned, a smaller proportion in that first year, tackling a large proportion that second and third year, and then rounding it out that 4 summer. So by the fall of 2030, you could have all of the bond projects wrapped up, and again, reevaluate kind of where those needs and priorities are to continue that momentum, to keep that moving forward and continually improving the district. So with that, the proposed bond ballot language of Prop H would be looking at an election date of November 3rd, 2026. And I believe this was read before, so I won't read it to you again. But again, that would encompass $150 million of district-wide improvements, hitting basically every building in the district. And just want to kind of focus on those last 2 statements there as we wrap up. So if this proposition is approved, as well as Proposition O that was just presented, the district's adjusted tax survey is estimated to decrease by that 0.1 and then transfer over to the other levy. And then if this proposition is approved and proposition is not approved, the tax levy will remain unchanged there. So with that, we'll open it up for any questions.
Board.
Yep, I've gone first the last couple of times. Anyone else?
I have 5 questions, and I'm going to spread the wealth a little bit.
Okay.
So I guess firstly to Dr. St. John, approximately when did the collective you first meet to discuss both the Prop O that we have already voted on and also Prop H? When did this brainstorming session begin?
Well, I would take you back to this brainstorming session actually began thinking it was going to be in April of 2027. So the year-long process that we've been working with Howell and Miller that then presented the facility master plan, we were already keyed and ready for a moment. It's just that once Senate Bill 1002 went into play, that's when this had to get moved forward. So since that moment, since May, we've just hit the ground running, knowing that we had a good list of things that were going to touch every building and that they were kind of shovel ready, that short list that you heard there. So it's basically been nonstop since that passed.
Perfect. My next question is, like you said, you hit the ground running to make sure that we could have this information presented to us in order to vote on for it to go to the November ballot. If you had to ballpark, how many hours do you feel that your staff spent getting this ready to this point?
That's such a hard math problem for me.
Days, weeks?
I mean, yeah, months. I mean, it really has consumed all of any extra time that any person has had, including Salim's team, Hollis and Miller's team, in order for us to deliver for you all tonight an excellent opportunity for the school district.
Director Adams, I'd just also like to add, in addition to just the immediate work that has taken us to get us to this point, this process really, for those of you on the board, from really about 1.5 years ago, that's really when it really started. If you guys recall, we had our bond counsel in to present some options in terms of what this could potentially look like. I believe it was October of 24. And just slowly it's been building up, and then with the Senate bill or House Bill 1002 passing, then it really drove everything in overdrive to be able to provide the information that we provided to you this evening. But the process has really been almost a full 1.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be fair to say that even though since the Senate bill had been approved and yet to be signed, a considerable amount of work and attention had been played to this to make sure that the administration had not rushed into recommending a decision and all the data points were looked at prior to you guys coming to us today. Would that be a fair assessment?
Correct.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. I mean, just if you look at the facility master planning alone, that the board approved in January, that was a full year process, from doing the assessments, collecting the survey, feedback from all educational stakeholders, to having the board work session, to coming back, I think 2 months later, we did the work session in November, and coming back and bringing the final product for board approval. So just that alone was a full year. So a lot of hours and a lot of processes, touch points with various educational stakeholders went into that whole process.
Thank you. All right. Question number 3.
Wait,
What?
can I?
said 5 questions.
Okay,
So let's one more question, then we'll go to.
I have 5 too.
You want to do it?
Director Adams?
Yes, sir.
You're next.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Ask your next question.
Okay, so to both Dr. St. John and Mr. Setzer, I know that this may be repeating a little bit of what you've said in both presentations, but knowing what you know about our funding, should both of these ballots fail, how would you describe what the community should expect over the next 3 years regarding programs, services, and our staff salary and benefits?
I'll take the stab on the fiscal operations side. You know, I just shared that back, a year and a half ago, when we brought our bond counsel in to begin talking about options. Simultaneously, I also had provided an update to the board just regarding how we've always handled bond issues, right? If you look from the cadence, our district has traditionally been, 10 years or more before we're addressing large physical infrastructure needs. And with Proposition S, there's a reason that it was $248 million, and then, with the premiums, having those additional dollars. The needs don't go away. It's just like your house. It's either, as I always tell people, pay me now or pay me later, but either way you're going to pay me, because we need to be able to provide conducive learning environments for students. So what we brought forward as a path forward for the board to consider is being able to make incremental improvements over time, almost in every 4 or 5 year cycle, to be able to maintain our facilities. Every day, I guesstimate we have about 20,000 educational stakeholders, from students to staff to community patrons, that are in and out of our buildings. That's wear and tear on all of that infrastructure, and you need to be able to maintain it in a systematic way, and 10 years is simply too long. If you look across the country, districts that have taken that approach are spending billions to catch up, and they're not. And the reality of it is, many of them are having to, compounded by declining enrollment, or having to close buildings down. And so that's what I would offer to you.
Thank you.
We're going to shift over to Director Oki, and we'll come back. Okay.
Sure. I'm just, I was looking through this information, and one of the questions that I had is that I noticed some of the work looks, in my judgment, repetitive. And what I was curious about is, where can I see like the master plan with these projects proposed and their current condition and that information?
So I believe we had provided the board with the full facility master plan assessment, so you can find the full detail in that document.
Is that online?
It's posted online, but I think it was also distributed
board
by.
meeting, Sarah, it's in the it's all.
Okay.
And I, real quick, Sarah has been not in the last couple of meetings for other reasons, and is twice as fast to catch up as anyone else here. And so I appreciate you asking the questions, and your email, we'll have that, and I'll send it to you as well. But perfect question, thank you so much.
Yeah, okay, thank you for that. And then I noticed on slide 17, we have a if this proposition is approved and Propo is also approved, so 2 positives. Then we have if this proposition approved and Propo is not approved. My question is what if Proposition O passes, but Proposition H fails, what would that look like?
Defer that to
Sure.
Dr. St. John.
Are you able to hear me on this microphone? Okay, good. Yes? That would simply mean that the KID dollars would still happen. So Proposition O is moving that money into the KID dollar side, and then we would be faced with how would we handle these maintenance items and these additional things. And so, for instance, each year we were only able to move, $5 to $7 million out of the operating account into our capital, and that wouldn't even come close to any of the numbers that you're seeing here tonight. So it would help if the levy were to pass part, but then if the bond portion wasn't, it would still put a strain on the operating, because that's the only other place that the money's gonna come from. We don't pull in enough from the levy in order to take care of all the needs of such a large district. So, and the if statements were really to add clarity, because we're taking these two things at one time. So we really wanted our voters to understand that this is, they are in tandem, but they can stand alone. We don't want them to stand alone, but we can, we wanted to make sure that people understood how that would work.
Let's see. Okay, that's it for a minute.
McGuire?
So, just make sure I understand. In simple terms, it's like a homeowner taking out a home equity loan to fix their roof and driveway. I could spend the next 10 years saving up to do it. During that time, it's falling apart. We're gonna take out some loans now to fix our parking lots and our HVAC and our roofs and ceilings and everything else. It's stuff that has to be done. And we could wait 2 decades to actually save it up and not take out a bond, but it's gonna cost us more and it's gonna fall apart during that time, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
I would also add, you, a school district cannot save up that money, so the debt service levy can only be the amount of a year and a half's worth of debt.
We would have to save it up in our operating capital funds
Correct.
amount, which would be impossible.
And it would take away from our staff with the benefits.
Okay, lead my next question. On the list of projects in the master plan with numbers tied to that $150 million bonds, none of those have been bid, none of those have been approved. Those are just estimates, correct? Everyone is going to have to be bid out, come to the board, tracked after the bond. So approving this bond doesn't approve any of those projects at this time, correct?
That's correct. It's the framework based off of the data that's been collected. And, contingent on the successful bond passage, every one of those projects, as we've shared from our process standpoint, would be brought back to the board for input in terms of if it requires significant design, and ultimately for approval through that process and construction contracts issued.
So, not to put you on the spot on this one, but here's the hard question. Howell North High School is going to come up in every conversation I have about this bond between now and Election Day. That proposition went to the voters and said, you approve this, and you're getting a high school for this cost. We now know how wrong that was, beyond the estimate, and then COVID, rampant inflation. How are we going to go to the voters with this and say, these are the projects that will be covered? Or are we going to hold back as a board and say, we would like to get some of these, we cannot commit that all the projects on this list will be covered? Like, we would like to think they will be, but are we gonna message correctly that we cannot confirm that the projects listed for the 149 million, we can't predict inflation, we can't predict, not to get like tariffs, cover costs. We don't know what future stuff could be. That's outside the control, whether they're right or wrong, whether you agree with it or not, the board does not control that. So when we present this bond to the voters, we're not agreeing to do any of those projects or that it will cover them all. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah, I would say that's a correct statement. And I guess what I would offer to you is, if you look at the list of projects that the board approved with the remaining Prop S dollars, right? We initially thought we couldn't get all of those completed, but through strategic leveraging and delivery of each project and conversations with the board, we ended up accomplishing everything, right? Because we were able to leverage different things. Inflation was somewhat in check during this period, and we used different delivery methods to eliminate some cost markups. So it'd be the same strategy. The goal is always to try to get everything done, but we take that same approach, and as projects come in under budget, we move on to that next phase. And if projects come in over budget, we have a discussion with the board and inform the public that, hey, right now, we're going to have to potentially maybe table, this project in phase 4 and try to address it at a later date. That's how bond programs are executed throughout the country. And it's no different in terms of this bond program and how we finished out Prop S.
All right, thank you.
So, Mr. McGuire, would it be right in thinking that the way that you're stating that is that this is like a couple of kids going up to mom and dad with their Christmas list and saying, this is everything that I want, and mom and dad saying, well, we only have a certain budget, we'll see what we can do?
Well, they've done this detailed work, they have estimates in here to the best of their knowledge. But I would say a big failure of Prop S was the selling to the public and how the public interpreted it, that they were going to get a high school for a certain price if they paid, if they approved that. And people are very upset that that's not what happened. And I want to make sure that we are informing the voters what they are getting if they approve this.
Makes sense.
And there's no certainty that they will get everything that's on this list. And we've done really well, it sounds like, with Prop S to make up for everything that happened with the new high school. But I don't want to relive that time while on my board.
Well, that's why we just went through also all of the changes and the policies and the checkpoints and all that stop sign slide where you're like, chicken.
But that doesn't,
I know what you're saying.
that doesn't cover cost increases that we can't predict.
Commitment, right, yeah.
And I do want to clarify that the goal is to get all the projects done,
Yes.
right? But we're making that, we're making these recommendations based off of today's numbers and the variables that we know and understand that have been vetted based off of market conditions in today's time, right? Like, I don't want to misconstrue that we're making a recommendation to address these, and we have no intention of being able to deliver all those. The intention is to deliver all those. There's just market conditions that are outside of our control, and that's why we have that system and process of being able to work systematically through the greatest priorities, and as pricing comes in favorably, we continue down that process, and if pricing comes in unfavorably, we need to make adjustments in those later phases.
And so that references back to the earlier parts of the presentation where the district changed policies, the board changed policies, so we don't get into that building, already spent money in building before we find out the cost.
That's correct.
So when we go to public, we can say that is not going to happen again.
That's correct.
I appreciate that because that was one of my questions as well. And I just want to add in that I do really appreciate slide 9. That is lovely to see it all picturesque and graphic. And I just want to let you know I really appreciate slide 9.
Any other questions we can answer for the board?
Wanted to call out a few things. One, some of the things that we've learned from Prop S, and this is for everybody else to follow along as well. Again, full transparency for the board monthly and quarterly. One of the things that was discovered was that with Prop S, the size of the project expanded by, I think, 30,000 square feet without public notification, without board notification. That is wrong. It was inappropriate. We name it. It happened. A whole different set of people. That has changed. You have had quarterly reports on all Prop S projects. How many Prop S projects have there been just in general?
When I go back to just in general, I want to say around between 13 and 15.
Yeah.
Now, as you get into the mechanical improvements, those are obviously multiple buildings, but we count some of those under 2 phases.
Correct. And so we haven't waited for a couple of years to apply lessons from Prop S and do better. We've been doing better for a few years, right? A few years of quarterly updates, sometimes monthly updates. We've seen you quite a few times at that podium. And so that's been an improvement. We have project manager and architect selection. You see the different policies that have been created, so everybody can look online, whether it's 3330, whether it's 7132, a policy, regulation 3330, policy 7132, regulation 7132, and then 7210. I just want to say out loud that when it comes to 7132, the district will evaluate each construction project to determine which construction method will be used. And this is added. When the construction manager at risk method is used, no construction work shall commence on any project until a guaranteed maximum price for the entire project has been established and formally approved by the Board of Education. I'll say that again, no construction work shall commence on any project until a guaranteed maximum price for the entire project has been established and formally approved by the Board of Education. Compensation for pre-construction services and consulting by the selected construction manager at risk may be permitted through separate approval by the Board of Education. So again, no work shall commence on any project until a guaranteed maximum price for the entire project has been established and formally approved by the Board of Education. That's one of the things that hurt us with Francis Howell North, is that the maximum price was changing without that level of approval. Additionally, and that may have been, yeah, that was 7132, and then on 7210 it says, regardless of the construction delivery method used, the superintendent or designee shall provide the Board of Education with quarterly updates on ongoing district construction projects. The quarterly update shall include, but not be limited to, the status of the project, an estimate completion date for the project, a current project budget, and a comparison to the initial project budget. For those of you who are watching online, the idea is increased oversight. Increased oversight, trust but verify. This is verify, 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 earn the trust, and then maybe trust but verify. But this is verify, 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 and that's what's been happening with monthly reporting, communication and transparency, implement leadership. It included the Executive Director of Facility of Operations position in your oversight. Your position has been one of the responses, as well as a purchasing manager position as well. So for those who are watching, this is a significant moment for the life of Francis Howell. We are not speeding through this. This has been 2 years or so in the making, and I appreciate Director Adams for calling that out for attention too. The only thing that is different, the only thing that is maybe feeling rushed, is that we're aiming at November of 2026 instead of April of 2027, because Senate Bill 1002 passed in Jefferson City required us to move faster. And so we are moving responsibly with all the information we have gathered through surveys at each school, because that's what happened. All of these projects were gathered and gleaned through surveying school leadership and teachers at each school, correct? We have taken that information, we have compiled it, we have put it together, it has been shared with the board. Carolee and I have been on the board the last 2 years. We have heard this repeatedly, and we thank you for that. Number two, this is a no tax increase. I've heard one person share that maybe what happens is that we have to raise the taxes in order to pay off a future bond, to pay off the bond in the future years. That is what Fund 3 exists to do, right?
Correct.
In the same way that we have not raised taxes over the last few years to pay off the Prop S bonds,
Right.
correct? We have not raised taxes
Never
in order
raised
to pay off Prop S
Correct.
funds.
6713. the whole-
Correct. We have not raised taxes to pay off those bonds. In the same way, there is no tax increase that will pay off these bonds, correct?
Correct.
Correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Lastly, or maybe almost lastly, is because of Senate Bill 1002, we can't wait till April. It's not an option, and if we try to wait till 2028, that could be an additional $26 million of cost.
Right.
We are charged with the financial stewardship of taxpayer resources, and it is, in my estimation, irresponsible to wait 2 more years for one reason or another, and then have to pay an additional $26 million for all the bond-related issues.
I'll add that that's also a very conservative number, because the other piece of that is how many other school districts do we have in St. Charles County? And we're all going to be competing for the same resources. You know, if they end up putting bond ballot language together as we are. And so naturally what happens with that is you're pulling from the same contractor pools to perform that work. And as you always often hear me say, there's only a limited number of days to complete that work in a school cycle. So in order to get that work done with competing against other school districts for the same labor force, a lot of that work would have to be done on overtime. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that that number, while we've done our best to try to reflect what that inflationary cost could be, it could potentially be higher because of that factor.
Can you, the construction at risk, the term I just lost for a second.
Construction manager at risk.
Construction manager at risk. Can you explain why we are deciding to add that into a policy and how we think that will help us with this problem?
Construction manager at risk it used to not be an available delivery method in the state of Missouri. It was against state statute. It became legal in, I believe, 2016. And actually, in my prior experience, we were the first district to utilize that as a delivery method. There's different nuances within construction manager at risk, from a delivery method and pre-construction costs and early GMP pricing. And what I will share with you is, you know, traditionally how it's executed from a guaranteed maximum price is all of the packages are bid out, if you will, and most school systems bring one recommendation. I can't speak to the nuances of the delivery, you know, how things were executed relative to Francis Howell North. I wasn't here, but what I can tell you is putting that language in there is obviously a recommendation and a stopgap to ensure that we know the full known cost of the project prior to beginning any site work or any footings.
Policy number 7132 has the sentence, again, just approved at the previous board meeting. As opposed to the traditional construction manager method, a construction manager at risk assumes the risk for the construction project at a contracted price. So when it says assume the risk, share what that looks like in real terms. If something escalates towards inflation or whatever the factor, or the tariff, or whatever the factor might be, what does that mean for the construction manager?
In essence, what that means, they're carrying all the risk, and the reality in terms of how that plays out is, let's hypothetically say that you know, the guaranteed maximum price that the board approved, I'm just going to use a number, for a project was $20 million. Well, due to a lot of other factors, the final cost comes in at $22 or $23 million. In the course of the work being performed, that contractor would be responsible for that difference.
Thank you for that clarification.
That overage.
I appreciate, not only for ourselves, but for the community hearing that the construction manager will be at risk for inflated costs, so that they would be on the hook versus.
Sounds like gap insurance.
Other questions?
I was just wondering if this could say that if this is passed, there will be no tax increase for taxpayers. I mean, when you read this, I mean, it basically says it, but doesn't really say it.
Are you talking about the ballot language?
Yes.
That is driven by.
It is vetted by the attorneys. This is as clear as we can be on the ballot, but as I mentioned on the previous one, with the work that Jennifer Joles and her team will be doing on our website and our communications, we'll be able to spell out and kind of explain that.
I just wish it could say it, because a lot of people won't read what you put out.
And for the public, there are limits to how clear we can make ballot language. We would all make the ballot language as simple as possible with charts or diagrams, etc. but we are limited by some legal restrictions.
Right, you're not allowed in the ballot language to sway the voters, so that's why you can't put certain pieces in there that would share potentially one side or the other of that information, so that it's built plain on purpose.
You can't tell the truth.
Well, there,
I mean, that's what it sounds like.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
We will try to make the language as clear as possible for the voters, because that's what we want to do. Here's what it is, here's what it isn't, and just let the public know that we are restricted at some point by legalese language on what it might say.
Last note I'll say is reaffirm, if this is passed, you will bring projects to us one by one for approved to go out to bid. We will then approve those bids. We will then approve the work and monitor the work as it goes through. So-
That's correct, as I
So
shared on
if
that.
voters vote yes on this, that doesn't actually mean any of this gets done. It just means we have the right to get bonds, to finance the work, and then the board will vote whether we do the projects based on the cost and the plans that come to us.
That's correct.
Knowing what we know from Prop S.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, 2 more questions. And I feel bad for Mrs. Simpkins, so I'm going to pick on her.
Okay.
Okay. So assuming that the majority of all the rest of the board agrees, would you be able to request that the policy committee takes a look at policy 0380, electioneering guidelines regarding board governance, to see if there's anything that merits revising, seeing as we're going to be trying to share a lot of information with our community in a very short space of time? So
Yes, I will share that with Mr. Delaney, and we'll see if we can move that forward.
Okay.
Take a look at that. It was 0308.
0380, electioneering guidelines regarding board
0380.
governance.
Okay, I'll put it on our list, Mr. Delaney.
Thank you. And my final question, I promise. As I think Mr. McGuire's mentioned it, like once maybe, about there being no tax increase on at either of the initiatives, to any that wish to answer from administration, is there anything that you can think of that would negatively affect the community if both of these propositions pass? We've already talked about the taxes, but is there anything that a member of the public would be upset about if both of these initiatives pass? Is there any reason why someone would not want to vote yes, excluding the taxes that we are not in control of? I yield.
For those online, the answer was no. The overall public voting yes does not lead to anything negative on your tax rate that you pay. Basically, the public gets a chance to benefit from Francis Howell making a great choice, in this case, 2 great choices for kids, and benefiting from all the results of that vote. Are there any other questions, board, regarding Prop H? It's Prop O and then H for 1 Howell. For those of you who are connecting the dots at home. Proposition H is to create a no tax rate increase bond resolution. A no tax rate increase bond resolution, as discussed over the last year and a half, the facility master plan, and all the other information that's been presented to the public for the last 18 months. So to the board, do you have any more questions? Okay. Regarding Proposition H, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The motion passes. Thank you all for your leadership. Board, have a motion to approve the budget as presented.
So moved.
Director Adams. Vice President Greider. Each year, the annual budget must be approved by July 1st. Dr. St. John.
Thank you, and thank you for that last vote. We really appreciate that. As you mentioned, it has been a lot that has gone into that, so that feels good to to take it to the next step. So with that, this is the second half of the budget recommendation that was brought to you in full last month. This would just be a shorter version for me to just review over some of the highlights with you. And so we'll just jump right in. So the budget recommendation, bringing the numbers of the operating fund comprised of the general fund and the teacher fund for the upcoming 26-27 school year. We are projecting a total operating revenue of $257,691,005 against their expenditures of $262,656,022, which creates an immediate operating deficit of $4.9 million. This gap is a direct result of the decreased state funding revenues calculated using a conservative state adequacy target of 6,700, combined with relentless rising cost, operational costs that have consisted of insurance, property and employee insurance, and the raises that were already promised to our staff, as well as ongoing operating costs such as supplies and utilities. This brings the fund balance from the estimated year-end this year of 2718 down to 2307, estimated for June 30th, 2027. As you know, that is something that is monitored monthly in the financial and operations update. This is a snapshot of what that would look like in the highlighted box, putting that trajectory, as I mentioned, to 2307. This is not with showing anything with that Prop O. So that would be an improvement should that go into play. That would not go into effect until the year 27-28, as that is an odd numbered year effect. And so that's where you would see that in the 27-28 year. This is the same type of information in the operating fund trajectory, showing you in the current path, as we've talked about here tonight, that the expenditures are above that of the expected revenue. And so you're going to have a decreasing trajectory for that. As mentioned in the March 21st meeting, we've had staffing analysis, benefits analysis. We've brought to you some levers that you can change, as we did tonight, in terms of the levy transfer. And then moving into the next phase is that we would start to look into next year, or if there are other expenditures that could be reduced. This is part of the statutory requirement to present to the board a general budget summary. And so this is what we expect to see on the ASBR at the end of the 27 school year. And so this, again, is ever changing. You have a monthly update, but we have to bring to you what we believe this is what the year end would be for each of the 4 fund accounts, and then that overall information, as I mentioned, at the 23.7%. This portion is the self-insurance information that is also brought to you monthly. This is information, as a reminder, the district operating fund supplemented the self-insurance fund by $11 million in last school year, FY25, and $1 million in FY26. This is a direct reduction to the district operating fund balance at approximately 4.5%. For the year 26-27 projection, we anticipate premiums at $36.57 million to completely match that of the projected insurance claims, still to be monitored monthly, but we do think that we are more aligned into next year than we have in the previous 2 years. In summary, the budget proposal responsibly supports our immediate district commitments while highlighting the precise areas where structural revenue decisions must be made in the months ahead. As new information becomes known, we will continue to bring formal budget amendments to the board. And I just want to thank you so much for your leadership and clarification on these very difficult topics.
Any questions, board? In June, we had a June 4th board meeting that also included an opportunity to ask questions, and the board has had opportunities to ask questions over the last few months as you built this budget.
Yes.
And to also ask questions through email. And so we appreciate you answering a whole set of questions that we've asked you ahead of this moment. Right. Again, this is a motion to approve the budget for 26-27 as presented. Already have a first and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Nay. No. I'm sorry, I started reading. I have to apologize. So the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
I'm just.
You're so excited.
I just look. Well, we'll figure out what happened there a little bit later on today. Little glitch, everybody. It's good to all have you here. All right, next, item 9B. Board, I have a motion that the Board of Education approve the final fiscal year 25-26 budget amendments in accordance with Missouri budget law by authorizing final budget for expenditures in each fund established under RSMO 165.011 to equal the actual audited expenditure amounts incurred through June 30th, 2026. Further, I move to authorize the superintendent or designee to execute all necessary year-end fund transfers and adjustments required to ensure that no fund finishes with a negative balance, maintaining strict compliance with Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education regulations and RSMO 165.011. Do I have a first and a second?
First.
Director Olkey?
Second.
Vice President Greider? Dr. St. John?
Hi again. Thank you for the opportunity to share an update for the 25-26 school budget related to strategic pillar number 3. Tonight we are presenting our June 18th, 2026 finance and operations update. This presentation provides a comprehensive baseline of our current fiscal landscape, evaluates our ongoing budget performance, and details our proactive efforts to maintain operational excellence amid evolving external challenges. This evening, there is not an additional budget amendment to be brought to the board, so the fund balance is unchanged since you last saw it at 2718. We do begin to look at those final year expenditures, and so I thank you for the ability to really shore those up as the year ends and making sure that nothing ends with a negative balance as those final numbers do come in as of June 30th. This is the same slide I shared last month, and I just wanted to highlight again for you, really just to see how it changed, the landscape changed, and that we did land at that 6,700 for our SAT. That will be reported to you monthly as to what the state is actually paying, because as I mentioned this year, it was expected to be at 7145. The budget was not built for that. It was built for half of what that increase would have been, and then it started paying at 6,900. And we knew as the year was going on that was paying less than was expected, and then got the unfortunate news toward the end of the year that it was not going to improve. And so that will be a part of the ongoing financial update each month. As we look at the trajectory, as I mentioned before, most importantly, I think it's just making sure that we're establishing what those assumptions are. And so again, drawing your attention to the right side. So each of these numbers can change the whole as any of those assumptions were to change. And so I draw your attention to the revenue is expected to increase by 2% for local. And again, as a reminder, that is due to the new construction estimate that we received in the spring. And then a decrease of 5.8%, or that 2.9 in the state funding. And that's again setting it the 6,700. Expenditures were already set into motion as those salary increases had been approved at 3% overall for that number. And then the decrease of the 2.1 million going with option 2.5 does give a slight decrease to the overall expenditure for the benefits. Purchase services are flat at just a slight increase of 233,000, and supplies are slightly up. And if, as a reminder, supplies include the utilities, and so that's often why you will see a change in that, even if you're holding building supplies constant, things that we can't control, in other words. And then just always remembering the simple math of how to calculate the fund balance, I think is always a good reminder. We just take that ending fund balance, that 70 million, and subtract out any restricted, which we have no restricted right now, which is in that just below that, and then dividing that by the total expenditures. And that really shows the health of the district that is expected at the June 30th date. And then really that is what we monitor monthly to ensure that each of those numbers are meeting the budgeted expectation. Another number that's important to know ongoing and will be shared is the monthly cost for salaries and benefits for the school district. So a good number to remember is 17.8 million in the current school year is how much it costs just for us to pay the salaries and benefits of the school district. This information was shared with you in the last presentation. Again, just along those same lines, And I continue to have the reminder at the bottom there that that 12.5 cents that we will be looking for in that levy transfer would increase the overall operational budget by 5.5 million. And the year that it's realized, we should see a 2% increase to the overall fund balance. This is the snapshot of the bond financial that's shared with you monthly, and in the board packet is the full version that was shared in the previous slide deck. And that's really so that you understand, even itemized out by every single one of those projects, you can see when the expenditures begin, and you can see on the far right side what the total cost is for each one of those projects. As we move into another proposition, the same information would be shared with you. You would know what the sale of the bonds were, you would know if there was any premium that went with that, and you would be able to understand interest that's earned on those dollars. The year-end look at the self-insurance fund. This is one that I was just mentioning if there were any end-of-year transfers that were needed, because as you might expect, medical claims lag a little bit, and so we would be monitoring that throughout the end of the month just to see if there were anything that we would need to be transferring. Ideally, there should be 7.75 million, and the fund balance that you see is at 4.7 million. So 7.75 represents 3 months of cushion in that account, maintaining a fund balance. While there are no requirements for that, it's just really best practice. At this time, we are comfortable at it being 4.7 because we have not seen this school year like we did last school year, those really large claims that were coming. And so just continuing to monitor that on an ongoing basis. I do not have an additional update, but I think it's important to keep this slide in there as a reminder. Director McGuire was asking questions even about the school funding modernization task force. Director Olkey had asked a question even last month, and so I think it's important for us to just keep this in the forefront, that each one of these buckets are really going to change the way that that formula is going to calculate. And so really understanding where we're going to be with that will change. The bottom left-hand corner, Director Olkey, is what you were talking about last time, where that dollar modifier is going to go away, and it's going to look at something called a comparable wage index, and it's going to talk about those median incomes. It'll talk about financial capacity of a school district, so those are things we haven't calculated before. And I don't want to get too far ahead because those are just models that we're starting to see, but just knowing that this is coming, we're not sure what that will do in terms of the local effort to the district. And then finally, there's great work in progress. The dependent verification for employee insurance will begin in July and will go through the end of September as we go into that new plan year that begins October 1st. That is something the district has not done, and so we do expect that to be a new process for people. We'll over-communicate that, making sure that they understand, whereas we know that that might be something that is normalized in other industries or other places. It's going to be something new for our folks, and so just making sure that they feel that they are communicated to and understand what that entails. And then phase 2, as Saloon mentioned, of the HVAC projects are on time, and we expect to turn those back over to the buildings at about August 1st. Moving into next school year, the food and nutrition services will have a new point of sale system that will be part of Infinite Campus. We expect this to be widely accepted and appreciated, as RevTrack has been a little difficult this spring, and so that's a transition, but we expect it'll be a good one. Scott and his team are working alongside academics with Glenn's team to deliver those student devices as we open up next school year. And then we've begun already the regular school year audit. So this is something every year that the school district must go through as an end of year process. It starts really in June and July, and it goes throughout the fall. And then it's brought to the board traditionally in November, but must be approved by December. And then I want to end this last time I'll be here. But I want to brag on you guys. This is awesome. So if we do a year in review, we want to conclude tonight by highlighting the extraordinary cost-saving measures implemented in the last 12 months. Way to go!
This financial report's very emotional.
Yes, I'm so excited. $6.6 million has been saved. Clap for yourselves. Board, you approved that. You had to make big decisions to get that done. They weren't easy. We have tough decisions ahead of us, guys. Thank you. I end with that.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Do you need a Kleenex?
No.
Right here.
I got emotional, but yes.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of that work, so.
Should be.
Yes.
I'll just say this this is a full rotation around the sun that I've been in this seat, and these decisions are not easy.
No.
We're making choices that impact people, and I am a person who loves people, and I would never want to make a decision that harms people. However, there are decisions that have to be made, and I have learned on the inside of this board how difficult this job is on that level of leadership. It is incredibly difficult. So the work you have done has been incredible, and thank you for coming in and being so absolutely knowledgeable and expert and all of the things, and intuitive about the things and ideas that you've brought to us as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The slide made me think of one question as a go-to.
Oh, no.
Not for you to answer, but for the
Yeah.
district to come back. On the one-to-one technology
Yes.
rollout, have we set up regulations and everything for students to take that home now? And damage and costs and waivers, and are all those policies in place to switch from a classroom issue to a take-home one-to-one with our middle and high school students?
Yes. Go ahead. Come on, join me.
Are you ready for the storm?
We are ready. So students, the responsibility for damage hasn't changed. Parents are already responsible for damages that students do. What is different is the acknowledgement of that responsibility, and we will have that in online registration available this summer for the parents, and students will be acknowledging that responsibility when they sign into the work order system for the first time in the fall. So that part has changed. There wouldn't be any need for a policy change at the board level because that responsibility hasn't changed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have taught me so much since April.
Okay.
And I thank you so much, just in a short time, because I have been making decisions I never expected that I would have to make, and they are not easy. So you are a gem, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Dr. Adams?
So looking at the May 26th row, when the board approved the decrease to the district contribution, one of the things that I mentioned that I wanted to see happen is the direction was option 2.5, but moving towards an option 2. I just want to make sure the plan with the over communication is still going to include that journey to option 2, so our staff are well aware that unfortunately this isn't the end of the insurance journey.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions, board? Thank you very much. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. Board, I have a motion to approve the purchases as presented.
So moved.
Director Adams? Vice President Greider? Any conversation? All those in favor?
I'll just note, all these purchases are available online for the public to see and review in board docs. So many people say we are not transparent as a district with where we spend. It is there for the public to see. You want to see where we spend money? After this month, go to Diligent, through the website, and pull up every dollar spent.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. Board, I have a motion to approve the fuel purchases for transportation as presented.
So moved.
Vice President Greider?
Second.
Director Adams? This item is being posted as an individual action item as it exceeds the purchases for prior approval threshold of $500,000. Any conversation?
This one's difficult because I think we're all feeling the pain of what we're experiencing fueling up our vehicles as well. And I know we don't have a choice here, but this one's sad. It's sad.
Other questions? I'm having some issues with board docs on my end. What was the?
Motion to approve.
No. What was the previous year's expenses?
1.1 million.
Right.
Did we go over the estimate last year, do you know?
I don't have that in front of me. I can follow up with that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I always pause at how big these numbers are, and I realize we're a district of 16,000 plus students, 2.9 million square feet of buildings, and one of the largest districts around in terms of geographic size, and that shows up when it comes to gas and fuel costs for the district. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. The board have a motion to approve the regulations as presented. Vice President Greider,
Second.
Treasurer McGuire. Any conversation? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. So Mr. Delaney is not in attendance today. He is away for the first time that I've noticed in ever. And so from there, we'll move directly to board comments. Board, does somebody want to raise their hand and speak first? Okay, let's do Director Owens.
Okay, I want the public to be aware of continuing attacks and cuts to public education in this state, this county, and in America. And just to read some excerpts from the Post-Dispatch yesterday about the Department of Education. The U.S. Department of Education is preparing to move its special education and civil rights offices outside the agency. A seismic change that some advocates warn could disrupt services for millions of students with disabilities. Education Secretary Linda McMahon said Tuesday that the Office of Special Education and Rehabilitative Services would enter into an agreement to outsource its programs to the Health and Human Services Department. Her agency also inked a similar deal to begin transferring its anti-discrimination work and the Office for Civil Rights to the Justice Department. This will leave our most vulnerable students and families who have been shut out of our education system without the services they need and without protection when they face discrimination. The new moves are among the most significant steps the administration has taken to dismantle the Education Department, despite laws mandating that certain programs remain within the long-standing agency. Students with disabilities have been one of the groups most affected by the Education Department's downsizing. During one recent record-breaking government shutdown, the administration fired almost every worker in the Education Department's Special Education Division, only to reverse its layoffs weeks later. The announcement is also the latest attempt by the administration to use interagency agreements to effectively kill the Department of Education without congressional action. Over the past year, the Education Department initiated more than a half dozen partnerships with other federal agencies, including the Labor and Interior Departments, to outsource much of its work. The Education Department cut its workforce in half in March 2025. I believe, and I know this board believes, that every student in this country matters. And if we don't stand up, we're going to lose public education.
Thank you, Ms. Owens. Other comments from the board? I'll go.
Three things. Start with an ask it of the district. I'd like to know, there's been lots of comments about the usage of the fields and the tracks and the tennis courts, and I grew up in your public schools. I utilize those in my life. The public health pays for these, same as they do public parks. I understand there is risk, especially giving blanket access. But I'd like to know what we could do for limited access at certain times of day for the public to be able to use these facilities that they also pay for. Just what that could look like, I'm not saying to do it, how could we get access to the tracks, to the tennis courts, to any of that stuff that people are used to using as public members.
Okay.
Next, I'll go to my angry statement or sad statement. Despite what people online say, I don't like spending money. People who know me, I hate it. And I just approved a deficit spending budget. And that line is, and this is for the board and the public and everyone, that line you put up there is not leveling off. It's going to zero. I don't want to get to a zero. And we can't wait until then. And next year when a budget comes to me, if that line is not changing directory, I'm gonna have a much different attitude of approving a budget. And I know that's gonna hurt, and I know it's gonna suck, but we gotta find a way because we cannot survive going to zero. And I'm not saying we're not gonna deficit spend, because that's a lot to change, but look at the board and everyone else. For me to support it, we gotta start somehow leveling off a little bit. However that happens. I know we're pulling the triggers, we've done a lot, that's great, that's amazing. But we have to live with what the means we have. And last, I just want to say thank you to Amy St. John, and good luck with everything.
Thank you.
The public does not see how much these people in these desks up here are dedicated and how hard they work. And Amy St. John is an epitome of that. I've only known her for a few months, and the effort and the caring and the commitment you have shown is a testament to what we want of people working in our public sector.
Thank you.
Thank you. You will be missed, and good luck and best of luck with everything you do in your new position.
Other comments, board? Director Adams.
Just a couple of things. Firstly, regarding Amendment 5, as it will appear in August, this amendment is proposing to transition from income tax to sales-based tax. And as Dr. St. John has proven over the last few months, predicting what the state funding is going to be is incredibly difficult. And even when we budget less than what we were promised, we still get allocated less. So moving to an untested, unknown method of revenue, such as sales tax, where consumer spending is very difficult to predict, it's going to make it even harder to budget what our future budget's going to be, and also harder for us to know what to spend our money on. So I'm just asking the public to do your own research in what Amendment 5 would mean to public education and the community. The other thing I wanted to mention was what propositions O and H are to me and for what the community to bear in mind. I worked here through 3 failed tax levies where there was a tax increase on each of those measures. And even though both of these do not include a tax increase, the one thing that I would ask the community to bear in mind is there have been incremental and consistent cuts ever since Prop Y. So as Dr. St. John and Mrs. Simpkins and others have said, the cuts that were being proposed weren't the first of the first set. This has been going on for a while. So if people cast their minds back when reading teachers were being considered being cut, some parents may think, well, my kid reads fine. That doesn't affect me, so I'm okay with that. When bus routes were being looked at to increase or decrease the zone when kids are being picked up, well, my kid walks to school or I drop them off by a car. That doesn't affect me. When teacher benefits are cut, well, they're not forced to work there. So it doesn't bother me, it doesn't affect me. Eventually these cuts are coming for your kid's education what you're interested in, your extracurricular activities. So I would respectfully say to start thinking of everyone's education and everyone's access to programs and services when they go to the ballot box in November, and don't wait until those cuts come for your kid. Protect everyone's education accessibility now by giving us the means to do so. And lastly, I couldn't put it any better than what Kevin said, but Dr. St. John, best of luck to you. It was fantastic working with you, and what Kevin said.
Thank you.
I guess to piggyback a little bit off of Jason, you all have heard tonight that public schools are facing difficult budget decisions. The budget that we approved tonight, like Kevin mentioned, is a deficit spend. Our fund balance is going down to 23%, and that's uncomfortable. We educate as a district more than 16,000 students. You know, we provide special education services, school meals, transportation, and we're basically preparing the workforce that keeps our economy strong. We cannot afford to lose another dollar. That's just the hard line. Amendment 5 diverts those state resources away from public priorities at a time when schools, especially ours, are under financial strain. Every dollar redirected is a dollar that cannot be invested in smaller class sizes, competitive teacher salaries, mental health supports, career and technical education, or safe, well-maintained school buildings. It's not politics, it's just priorities. Strong public schools benefit every community, whether you have a kid in school or not. Francis Howell School District strengthens our local economy, increases our property values, and creates opportunities for the next generation. So, if you believe that every Missouri child and every Francis Howell student deserves a high-quality public education, then it's time to fund it like we mean it. Amendment 5 deserves a no vote this August, and to that end, O and H deserve a big ol' yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, tomorrow is Juneteenth, so I just want to encourage everyone to find a way to honor that. It's time to celebrate the progress that we've made and also recognize that we've got a lot of work left to do. Just a little history on that from history.com. So Juneteenth marks the day when federal troops arrived in Galveston, Texas in 1865 to take control of the state and ensure that all enslaved people be freed. The troops' arrival came a full 2.5 years after the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation. Juneteenth honors the end of slavery in the United States and is considered the longest-running African-American holiday. It was June 17th, 2021 that it officially became a federal holiday. There are local events going on tomorrow throughout the weekend. I know the St. Charles County NAACP is hosting a food drive and a barbecue Saturday from 11 to 2 at Grace Gospel Temple, and it would be amazing to see as many people in the community bring food to support the Oasis Food Pantry. Also, Happy Pride, awesome annual event at the Family Arena from 11 to 5 on Saturday. Lots going on this weekend. Plus one to everything everyone said about Amy St. John. I mean, you personally know I'm a huge fan. The impact that you've made in just your year here is staggering. So wishing you all the very best, and I know I will start crying too if I say much more. So lastly, just to talk about the elections, please stay informed on the ballot issues. August 4th, we have 4 constitutional amendments. I know we're talking a lot about 5, but there are 1, 2, 4, and 5. You can check information on the Secretary of State's website or League of Women Voters. Propositions O and H for 1 Howell, you can remember that, are critical, again, to just reiterate what everybody said, to the kids in the community. Also, I believe we are the 2nd largest employer in St. Charles County. So, keeping jobs here with our teachers and staff matters to everyone in this community. So please, please, please show up for the kids, for the community.
Thank you. Sharing when it comes to Juneteenth tomorrow, one of the largest lessons I've learned is that a lot of people may identify as being an ally, but it's helpful to realize that you're not there yet. And hopefully we're all in a process of what it means to be an ally of the people in our community who make the community better and historically have been on the underside of a lot of decisions by people in power. So tomorrow, while you celebrate, let us all take a moment and realize that if you're trying to be an ally, just to affirm that you're not there yet, and neither am I, and there's steps to take. I wanted to say again, thank you to Dr. Amy St. John. She is moving to the Kansas City area because she has family there, and we wish you the absolute best. I wanted to do two things. One, I wanted to share that we are excited about Pam Irwin coming in. Sometimes I think about Pam Irvin, so I mess up sometimes. So Pam Irwin is coming in. We're really excited about what she's going to be able to do with finances and follow along with all the things we've been talking about tonight. I know that she's also been actively learning and onboarding, so she is not jumping in on July 1st. She's already been here multiple times. We've all had chances to meet her multiple times, and we're excited about the leadership of Pam Irwin. I also wanted to say that all the budget numbers we just saw, we have $4 million more in the budget this year, and $7 million in the budget next year, and $10 million in the budget the year after that, because of the leadership of Amy St. John. So every teacher, your insurance, your pay is where it is, because about a year ago, she started raising her hand about Senate Bill 3, limited to just inform. She just informed the board, and the board took it from there, and other people took it from there, and we defeated Prop RT 59-41. So all of you across the entire county who showed up for that vote, I want to say thank you, and I want to identify for public record that what preceded that vote that helped save schools, libraries, fire and EMS services, and the Developmental Disabilities Resource Board. What preceded all of that was Dr. Amy St. John raising her hand and saying, everybody look here. And when it took a while for anyone to look, right around January, February of last year, other people started to look. And it was because of the person who's in our room. So for all of you, just to be aware that all those entities, including Francis Howell, is at where it's at because Dr. Amy St. John had the ability to raise her hand and say, everybody look here. I want to say thank you, and for all the different ways that all those entities have money in their pocket and in their funding that would not have been there. For all the kids who are getting better education, the kids in the Developmental Disabilities Resource Board who are being cared for by all of their services, you made a difference. And I want the public to know that you are involved in a very, very real way for it. Lastly, as your parting gift, you give us 2 issues on the ballot, but for Prop O and Prop H, for all of you to hear, that before Prop O and Prop H hits the ballot in November, the tax levy is $3.9769 before the election. After the election, whether you vote for it or against it, the tax levy is still going to be $3.9769. The ballot does not change whether or not you pay more in taxes. It does change whether or not Francis Howell is able to make good on our promise to create the best public education for all students. And I want to thank you for your leadership of the team, for Mr. Delaney and others to be part of this conversation. This is a big night for the future of Francis Howell. The board, administration, we have all done what we can do. And now in the upcoming months, the public has a chance again to say, yes, we will support our students by supporting our teachers and our schools. And I want to say thank you for your leadership on that. The very best days of Francis Howell are ahead of us. And the public gets a say on what that's going to look like. So with that, I ask the board for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Vice President Greider, followed by Director Wolke. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes.